Hey, welcome back. My name is Sheila, and we are reading books today from the library. And it is a joyous event. It is a joyous time to get free books. Why wouldn't you want to have free books? Sometimes I buy books after I've read them at the library because I just need to own them. Other times I have to ask myself, will I read this again? And a lot of times that answer is no, I won't read it again, so I'm not going to buy it. So I'm super thankful that I was able to just read it for free at my library. So here are eight books that I want to talk to you about today and tell you a little bit about and if I enjoyed them and what I rated them. And they're all library and they were all free. Okay, first, let's start with And I Darken by Kirsten White. This is kind of chunky. I thought it was going to be a vampire fantasy book because it's about Dracula and Wallachia, and they're conquering, and that's the Vlad Dracul legacy, right? That's the genealogy. That's where that happened at. But it's a retelling, and he has a daughter and a son, and the daughter ends up being, at this point, I think, the more powerful one. I'm almost done with this first book. I'm about right here. And it was really more, there's no magic. There's no, at this point, no vampires. And it's more political. It's more watching the kids grow up, seeing where they're at, seeing how they turn out, what they have to go through. It's a little different. It's a little different than what I usually read. But as I pushed through, I'm like, no, this is good for me. This is good for me to get out of my comfort zone a little bit and try something new. And even though it wasn't really what I was expecting, this is book number 1, and I'm almost finished with it. And books 2 and 3 on Goodreads have even higher ratings than book number 1. So I am going to push through, finish it, kind of at a little more leisurely pace, because right now, because I usually don't read more than one book at a time. I usually just bust it out. But I'm reading this one along with a few others. And so I'm taking my time a little more leisurely, but it's almost finished. And, you know, it's got to be like a 3.75 to a 4-star, or else I'm not going to read it. It's written well. The premise is really interesting and different. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing for me to push through. I'm liking it enough that I'm going to finish this trilogy. Okay, let's move. The Red Queen, because of this batch of library books, there's 8 of them. I'm not going to get to this one in time to, finish it in this batch. I'm going to have to come back to this one. Shadowfell by Juliette Marillier. I really wanted to read this author, and so I picked up this one first. And I read the first third of it, and, got the gist, got some details, got the little bit of magic system that's going on, the little bit of the lay of the land, and then it really slowed down for me. So I checked it out on Goodreads again, and they say, a lot of comments said that this was kind of slow. So I think the writing's beautiful, and I think that I will enjoy maybe circling back to some of this author's work. But right now, because of all these books I have, I decided that I'm going to DNF this at this point and regroup at a later date when I'm ready for something a little slower. This one, The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. I don't know if you've read this. I was looking so forward to reading this. I thought, I'm going to love this, because I think Elliot Brooks, pretty sure it was her who really enjoyed this book. This is what I would call, some epic fantasy. And it almost, let me see if I can show you. Like in the beginning, it gives you the rules to the land. It says a handbook for travelers in the Elflands. So they give you the very first, the rules. They teach you a language almost. They're teaching you a different language pronunciation. Names, like the feminine and the masculine. Like it was a lesson in a different language. I think some of you would think that is super cool. And then it gives you a listing of persons, places, things, and gods. Page after page after page of person, places, things, and gods. Okay, if you are into this, I think this is a fantastic book. I may circle back to this someday, but right now, I don't know if I ever will. It's really out of my wheelhouse. I'm not prepared intellectually to learn a new language. I don't want to say I'm not that smart, but I don't think I'm that smart. I read it, I started, and I get the story, but then they throw in the rules and the language, and I got a little lost. I was like, I don't really understand where we are, who we're talking to, what's going on, and I'm not going to push through this. And I doubt I will circle back. This is just going to have to not work for me, but I think it's probably a really good book for those of you that are really ready for something a little more epic. And I was just not ready for that, and may never be ready for that. Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This is right up my alley. This is in my wheelhouse. This is my speed. I haven't finished it yet. I'm reading a few books right now, but it's fairies and a magic and a human, and I'm loving this so far. I think this will be probably my favorite book out of this whole batch that I got from the library. Because it's just, I do love things like this. And sometimes when I'm in the mood to read, this is just what I'm looking for. You know, And I Darken is out of my wheelhouse, but I think it's good for me to not just read books like this all the time and to stretch myself a little bit. But if I hate something, if I just can't do it, I'm just not going to do it. But this, loving it so far. Pretty sure it's going to end up on one of the top books of my list this month, and highly recommend at this point. Again, I'm not quite finished because I've been dabbling with all of these. And then another book completely out of my wheelhouse, Not Even Bones by Rebecca Schaeffer. This did come recommended by someone on BookTube, and I thought, it was available at my library, because how fun is it to sit down with your library card on your computer. I use the Goodreads app, and I have all these books that I want to read, and I go through all the books I want to read, and I sit at my computer at the library and I want this book. Boom, it's available. Yes, request it. Okay, I want this book. Doodle doodle do. It's not available for 12 weeks or so, but yeah, I want it in 12 weeks, so I request it. They'll let you know when it comes in. Doodle doodle do. I want this book, but it's at another library. They will send it to your library and let you know when it's available. It's a day or two. Love, love, love sitting at my computer, going over the library and ordering me some books. Love it with my whole heart. So this was referred and recommended, and it is more of a thriller / horror. And as I started reading it, I was like, I'm not sure. It tells you kind of the perspective of the bad guy. That's kind of how it says, there is a special type of monster to dissect dead people and sell them without guilt. It takes a special type of a monster to dissect. Gosh, can I read today? Let's try that one more time for you people. It takes a special type of monster to dissect dead people and sell them without guilt. There you go. That's what's going on here. I talked to my daughter. I'm like, I'm reading this book, and it's this and it's that. And she's like, and then is it this? And then is it that? And I said, yes. And she said, I'm reading that on an app that has anime. So pictures that go with the words. And so it shows you what potentially these people would look like. And she showed me. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm reading. And so we got to chatting. So then I thought, I need to finish. I need to see how this turns out. Again, out of my wheelhouse, but I think it's good for me. And I was enjoying it enough, and I was intrigued enough that I did want to see how it turned out. So I got book 2, Only Only Ashes Remain. Boom. I'm almost done with book 2, and then there is the final book. And the one thing I like about, again, going back with some of these older options, is that they're a completed series. I don't have to wait and wait and wait for the next book, the next book, the next book. I love me some completed series. So this was completed. And like I said, it's kind of X-Men-ish. They're called themselves unnaturals, and they have powers. Um, or not powers, maybe a deadly trait. Like they have selkies who will drag you under the water and eat you. And they look human, or they can look human, but they have to eat rotting flesh to survive. So how, for example, how do those kinds of people live amongst us? They try, but they will die if they don't eat underwater rotting flesh. They will die. So how do they survive? How do they cope in this world and still be moral, or still be not a taint on society, or be an upstanding citizen? How can they do that while having to survive? It is a really interesting concept, and I'm almost done. You can see I'm almost done with book 2. And I am very intrigued to see how book 3 finishes. It does teach you, and it does have an underlying message of how we handle differences in our society, how different people do different things, how we're going to cope, how do we help them cope? Do we just accuse and point fingers and hunt them? Do we help them? How do they integrate into society? It's been a ride. It's been a ride. It's kept me on the edge of my seat. So I'm definitely, so far, this is a 4-star for me. Definitely. And I'm going to finish this. So highly recommend if you want something maybe a little uncomfortable, but not too uncomfortable. Sometimes I get some books from the library, and they're very uncomfortable for me from the get-go. And they're just a no. Just a no. DNF. And I've had that with a couple authors, and I'm like, okay, like this author is just not for me. They're probably not a bad author, but they're just not for me. And I'm so glad I found that out through the library for free. How exciting is that? And how much better is that than purchasing books that cost a lot of money, and then when you finally get to them, you're like, nope. Like that's how this one was going to be for me. I almost bought this book so many times, at either on Amazon or at my bookstore or at Barnes and Noble, because I thought, I am going to love this. I'm going to want this. I've heard it had, this great world, and I thought, I'm going to love this. And I'm so glad that I did not purchase it, because I don't love it. It's just not for me. I think people do love this book, but this is just not for me. It is too heavy, and it expects too much from my mind. I sometimes just I do 99% of the time when I read, just want to be entertained. And so this made me work a little too hard, and it just wasn't for me. So there you go. My 8 free, lovely reads of the last 2 weeks. Love them. Love this one. Glad I got out of my comfort zone, but super glad I was able to do all of that without having to spend a dime. Try your library. That will always be my mission, is to help you guys do this for free. This is about all the books I have. I do have a couple more little spots with a few books. Some, like my Harry Potters, aren't on these shelves, but I have all the Harry Potters. Like there's definitely some books tucked away that I love, that I've read more than once, but I can't just buy books for the sake of buying books unless I know that I'm going to love them. I know I'm going to love them, or I know I do love them, and then I purchase them after. But I use the library to my best awareness, my best ability to read that book first before I decide if I can spend the money on it. So enjoy the library. It's just such a fun place, and they don't care if you have money, if you're poor, you're rich, you're old, you're young. The library feels like the opportunity of reading should just be for everybody. And I love that, and I agree. Everybody should be able to go read a good book. So check out yours. Let me know what you're reading. Give me some recommendations. I always love that, and share them with any of my other viewers. And I thank you for being here. See you next time.